Next 100 games that you think you might not get here?
Probably not something I think about too much, but yeah, it's obviously taken me a while, so there's probably been some moments where it was maybe in doubt, but yeah, I don't know, it's 100 games, a milestone that I don't think players think about too much, but yeah, it's nice to tick it off, I guess. Nice to finally get here.
It's a different way to finally get there. Like you haven't had the many milestones. So how hard's the journey been for you when you reflect, or haven't you reflected?
I haven't reflected too much. I think the last pretty much 2 years I've been able to play some relatively consistent sort of footy, so it's been nice to not have to think back too much. And this year's obviously been a busy one, so there hasn't been too much time for reflecting. But uh, I've had to something I've always had to speak about in my career. Like my injuries have been a huge part of me as a player, and it's not something I've overly enjoyed talking about. I'd much rather not have gone through that and have other experiences to talk about and that people are interested in. But yeah, I've tried to make it not something that's defined who I am, I guess, my injuries and my setbacks, but hopefully sort of strengthened a little bit of my resilience and helped me enjoy the time that I've had out there. And as I said, the last pretty much 2 years I've been able to get out there and play, and that's been a really nice experience.
Much as that seemed annoyed you, you got subbed out the other week. So you didn't do a hell of a lot yesterday. How's the body?
Body's all right. It's a time of the season when a lot of guys have little niggles. I've been dealing with some for a little while now. Got subbed out. It was a nice chance to just have a bit of a rest, have a quarter off. My training's been monitored for a while now, so yesterday was no issue. So yeah, all good.
So getting between games is all good. There's no issues. How you pulling up or anything like that at the moment?
No, just the sort of little issues I'm dealing with. We've got a plan, and yeah, part of that is modified training loads and making sure I'm sort of ready to go and give everything on game day and be able to play 120 minutes if needed. So that's where we're at.
Big challenge Sunday. There's a couple of decent forwards in the opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably two of the best in the comp, two of the most dangerous. So it's a good challenge. Coxie and I are pretty excited. Obviously, as a team, we're really excited to get a win and sort of get some momentum building again. So yeah, back against our home fans with a challenge, particularly for us as defenders. It's one I'm looking forward to.
How do you decide who takes who? Is it just the positioning up on the field, or do you take it as a specific opponent with these guys?
No, we'll probably decide before we get there. If it was up to Coxie, we'd probably toss a coin and just work it out on the way. But it's good fun playing alongside Brennan because we have some similar attributes in a way, so we can share up those dangerous opponents. So we're not just locked in and that's all we're doing. I think what we try and do, maybe haven't done as well the last few weeks, is to be able to defend as a unit and not lock into one opponent. So we'll try and do that again, but we'll probably have one of them for a majority of the day.
How much does the ladder position sort of play in the back of your mind for a contest like this, just being 2 points in front of Carlton and 4 points outside the top 8?
I definitely try not to play much at all. I'm not someone who consumes too much football or looks at the ladder too much, because often trying to build up for a game each week, like we could have done that the week before, and we could do it next week. And every game at this time of year is important because there's so many teams that have it's a similar spot in the ladder during that middle part. So I think what we've tried to do is just stay consistent and make sure we're at our best for each game and not try to ride the wave too much.
Wet weather has been at times a challenge for you guys. Do you feel like if it's raining on Sunday you'll I guess know how to play? That's a terrible question.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I get where you're coming from. I hope we still remember how to play when it's bounced. It's something we've spoken about at times. Tried to not make a huge issue about it. Again, because when we've reviewed games where we haven't performed in wet weather, it hasn't been these glaring issues. It's been we haven't executed on our game plan, and game plan, our focus on the contest is really important no matter what the conditions are. So, if it's a bit wet, then things don't change a great deal. Everyone understands that you can't muck around with it too much and you get it forward a little bit quicker. But, we've obviously had some practice this year, so I think we'll go in confident regardless.
What do you make of the midfield match up without Fife? Like, how do you nullify Cripps and Walsh?
It's a good one. Like, I think our midfield is quite dangerous. Brayshaw and Sarong in particular, and Sean's been playing some really good football. And we've really noticed since he's been back, the work he does with his hit outs and his follow up around the ground. So, I wasn't in the midfield meeting this morning, so I'm not sure what the exact tactics are, but there's always a balance of looking after their strengths and making sure that we've got an eye on a few of their dangerous players and how they like to do things, but making sure that we're focusing on bringing our strengths and really hurting them out of there as well. Given
you've struggled with injury, how much are you feeling for Fife?
Yeah, it's a lot. My career's been linked a bit to his since I've been here. I live with him and he's been a mentor for me when I've struggled through some injuries, and he's obviously struggled through a little bit. We've been in rehab together at times, and his last 2 years have been really tough, and it seemed like he was building a little bit of momentum and some consistency out in the field. So it's really tough. But this is what happens sometimes in footy, and the good thing about Nathan is that he's just such a professional, and he'll continue to improve even in this period when he's off and away. But it's an opportunity for his teammates to sort of get around him and throw their arms around him and make sure we look after him as well off the field. But it's a tough thing about footy. Most people go through these instances.
Having been through, like you mentioned, those injury dramas yourself, do you sort of take it upon yourself to get around him that little bit more and try to be that extra support, I guess?
Yeah, well, he's a mate of mine, so we have a relationship that we can, that I guess I can draw on. But it is really hard during these times because you do get a lot of attention initially when you're injured, and sometimes you just need your own space. So it's a balance between being there for support and letting them work through it, and that's something that he'll work through, and that us as teammates will try and help him with as well.
What sort of role does he play, or will he play on game day?
I'm not sure with this game day. Early on in the year, when he wasn't playing, he was in the box and sort of a presence in the rooms before the game and during the break. So I'm sure that he'll step into that role for us this year. And he's obviously he's been a great leader for this club, and he's still a really great leader, and his presence is really welcomed in every sort of aspect. So I'm sure that throughout the year he'll still be a resource for all of us.
Back to the Kerno-Mackay matchup, how did you reflect on the Jamara getting away from you a bit last week, and what can you do to fix that against such two talented guys this weekend?
Yeah, it's I guess Jamara is the third, and that's why it makes the Bulldogs quite a dangerous forward line, because they've got numerous guys that can get us. But we reviewed a few of our entries, and just as I touched on, our ability to work together is really important. And Jamara took a few contested marks inside the forward 50, which we expect to be really strong and really desperate when we defend, which we maybe weren't there. So there's a few things that we've worked on at training and that we'll implement. But it's tough sometimes. Really good players can get on a bit of a roll, and you really need to do everything you can to stop them. And we obviously didn't get it done against Jamara.
Can you do much from what you learned from that against these two guys who are so different?
Yeah, different players to Jamara for sure. So I think we're not going to be preparing for Jamara this week. We're preparing for Mackay and Kerno. So we've learned some lessons in the past that will, that we acknowledge that what their strengths are, but we acknowledge what ours are and how we can beat them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.